Recording in progress.
Good evening, calling to order the Tree Preservation Planning Committee meeting for Tuesday, November 4th. We are currently all in the room, but we might have some committee members joining us. So there we go. There's Erica Bond. Hi, Erica, just perfect timing. So I don't know that we need to take a roll call attendance, but know that we're a hybrid meeting, and if anybody's recording, they should let us. So I just want to start this meeting because we have a person at the table. It's Dave Kaburska. He is just checking us out, joining our meeting. Actually, since we have you here, maybe we'll just go around and introduce, and you can just say what your role is here on the committee. So I'm Heidi Frail, chair of the select board, chair of the meeting, and on as a member. So we're on Kurt.
I'm Kurt Trini. I'm representing the developers in the room.
Andrew Bobensky, I'm one of the at-large members.
Fred Motor, I'm liaison for climate action.
Josh Levy, I'm representing the stormwater bylaw.
But Edward Olson, Superintendent of Parks and Forestry, and the tree warden for the town.
Gabby Queenan, Sustainability Manager for the town.
Artie Crocker, the planning board rep.
Commerce Large House Committee.
And then online we have Erica. Erica, can you hear us?
Oh, so.
Sound when she can hear us. Nick, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, all right. Well, introduce yourself while we figure out why Erica can't hear us.
Hi, I'm Nick Tatar. I'm a contractor and I'm sitting in a parking lot down in Fall River.
Fantastic. And Erica Bond is probably someone you know, but she is the vice chair of this committee. Large. Oh no, actually, she's the landscape designer. Member.
No, Clary. If we have to grab one more chair next door.
Thanks, Claire.
We're
Just right there. There's some role that will.
The
easier.
conservation representative.
All right, super. So, first item on our agenda is approving the minutes from our last meeting. Did everyone have a chance to those meeting minutes and take a? So no, but you of course not. Everyone else, was there any notes?
Was that the October
Yes,
case? So we went there.
we were. Okay, but I did watch the meeting, so I'm fine about voting on the minutes. So, does anyone want to move approval of the minutes?
Will be approved.
Okay,
Second.
fantastic. Thank you for the second. Any other discussion? All right, then, all in favor? Aye.
I'll abstain.
One exception. Right. So the second item on our agenda is to review continue our review of the Wellesley tree bylaw and regulations. And I would love to ask Gabby if you could potentially just like bring us up to date. There's so many revisions and notes in our text that I admit I'm not entirely clear where we left off, especially since the last meeting. So if you could just kind of give us some context.
Sure.
Great.
Yep. So for the bylaw, at this point, this group has discussed all of the sections with the exception of definitions. And I should note there are several items that have been flagged for town council. Town council is reviewing those items, although to get some feedback on a couple of them. So the definitions, I would say, is the next topic of focus for the bylaw. At the last meeting, we did get through the regulations a little bit, with the exception of the mitigation fees. That was also tabled for a later discussion. And again, same as with the bylaw, there are several items in the regulations that we've flagged for town council. Same topics for the most part that will need town council input on.
So for So where we want to start tonight? I'm frankly feeling a little faint at the thought of tackling the descriptions. Um,
Definition.
and the definitions, yes, thank you. Especially because I do really want to talk more about the items that we have to bring to town council, make sure that we have a good list. And also this issue of like how to describe the tree yard.
Hmm,
I'd like to discuss that. So do you want to like relay your conversation with Chris?
sure. So you may recall that we had had a discussion about utilizing the zoning district setbacks as the parameters for the tree yard. We had some concern from town council that that was the case, that this bylaw needed to be couched within zoning versus a general bylaw. We talked about whether it would be possible for us to keep the setbacks, reference to the setbacks without triggering reference to zoning districts. And further conversations with town council today, they felt like that would be very challenging to do. So they suggested that we regroup on this conversation to figure out if it's possible to set different parameters for the tree yard and have them not be tied to zoning setbacks, or decide to go forward with the zoning setbacks and then have this be within the zoning bylaw.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Could we set, instead of referencing the setbacks, could we just set the distances
Right.
equal to the setbacks?
So part of the issue here is that they're not all the same. So we had originally thought we would reference zoning districts and then set tree yard parameters based on those, for the setbacks for the different districts. Given that they're all different and given that so just to start, we want to not turn this into a zoning bylaw because it's complicated. This is a commission kind of by the select board. If we create a zoning bylaw that's maybe not fair to the planning board, it also means that it has to be regulated differently and approved differently. So if we can, we'd like to keep it within the select board purview. So this is one of the reasons why we don't want to refer to the zoning, so that we don't have to turn it over. to the planning board.
Can I ask, is there an easy definition of what the turf is for the zoning board? Like what is the zoning board, what's their mandate to govern?
So,
Playing.
Planning,
so the,
all right, yeah,
yeah, the planning board is in charge of,
of zoning, okay, thanks.
so this can be a bylaw and it can be a bylaw under zoning, a zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
Or it can be a more general bylaw under the select.
Because it seems to me that what we're trying to craft is a protection for something that applies regardless of what the zoning is for the lot, right? It's not, so.
Yeah, it's true. It's just that we want, when we get to the specifics,
Yeah,
how big that area should be and how to describe how big that area should be. Typically, we would, and I think our original idea of the tree yard was to have it kind of align with building setbacks,
mhm.
because that area is not in play for building anyway. So it aligns very nicely. It's just that if we start to refer to it that way, it becomes, Chris feels, a zoning bylaw.
So can we say that by another definition, we can come up with our own description of what the setback area is, like it
Yes,
could be
so that's
called
the challenge.
unbuildable, or it could be called
Unbuildable.
undevelopable. By just generally, you can't build in it, presumably,
Because of the zoning
because of the
bylaws.
zoning bylaws.
But-
But
but
if
you don't
you
have to
say
say that.
unbuildable, we're not saying, we're just referring to an area that is in another bylaw or in another town construct.
Yeah,
Or it has the definitions of what is technically,
But
you
so-
can't build.
Oh,
a house.
So before we-
It's like, except for accessory structures can't be built
okay,
within 5 feet.
but- well, depending. But
No, it can't.
part of the issue is that we want to remember that we had originally talked about this bylaw as applying across town, like regardless of zoning district. So the problem there is that we're going to have lots of very different sizes and restrictions. So SRB, you know, I live in a very small lot, 5,600 square feet, so it's like this big. And its setbacks, its buildable lot is gonna be very different than a 12,000 square foot lot, which is actually one of the most populated, but like the most numerous. Yeah, so we just had to be like really thoughtful about how we would describe this area. And Chris is gonna give us advice, but I wanted to bring it up so that we could all start to think about it. Very.
I like the idea of maybe using unbuildable, but my question before I finish my thought is unbuildable strictly for the zoning? Is it defined within the zoning and bylaws as a term per se?
Not necessarily, we probably have to add it as.
Kind of a generic.
Okay,
Way
so
of-
I'll pause on that for a minute. I like the idea of maybe potentially, like you were mentioning before, using a determined distance, but based on what you're saying, is there in the, I have to go back to the zoning because I want to make sure that it correctly going to say this is not already within the zoning bylaw. For example, your lot, your parcel is probably 75% built. Or 50% built out, or 25% built out. So my question is, can we use some kind of a rubric metric to determine from the boundary line 15 feet and consider the exceptions to be XY, something like that, but not to complicate it too much. But you know, if you have an acre land, you have plenty of options, right? Which is not the same as if you have a 5,600 square foot lot.
Right, I think the challenge and the question for Chris will be whether we can refer to things like lot coverage
Pulling up lot lines.
or lot lines or front
Frontage,
I mean, these are
Any
like,
term that might
these are
trigger.
terms that
Yeah.
aren't
right?
zoning bylaw. Setback is a bylaw. So I think we need maybe a little bit more discussion, and maybe he can join us for a meeting at some point
Yeah,
to sort of just hash it out.
Just to be clear, is there any reason why, even if it's a challenging process, that we would not want this to be in the bylaws, because it does tie to all different districts and all different building conditions, right? Or are we trying to say that this is limited to? Well, it's private property. Right? We're talking about trees, so it could be a business, could be an office, could be a,
mhm.
right? So I guess, is it just so onerous or such a problem? Because it does take it out of your, puts in the planning board, it just. Technically, it is sort of a building issue. Related to building issue, but you're saying it's.
Yeah, I think it's,
If we can,
I mean, I would look at it more like stormwater. Personally.
Okay.
It's
So it's a
happening on
natural-
private
yeah.
properties certainly, but it's not a function building. It's
but it's-
preservation.
it's- Yeah, I guess they're all interrelated, stormwater's interrelated and trees are interrelated, but yeah, they're not technically building, but they're.
Also, I just think it's not a nice thing to like dump a controversial issue on a board. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a while, the planning board has said, well, perhaps it should be on the planning board's purview to decide what's happening with that. So, I mean, in some ways, we'd say, sure, because it should have been ours anyway. To some extent, that being said, could we just redefine or clarify the reason why we're looking at this perimeter is because we don't care about trees outside, you know, outside of that perimeter, or further, what is that really doing when, if, and I understand, maybe I should know exactly, but is we're dealing with trees of a certain caliber. No matter where they are on the lot, I believe, no matter where they are. So what is this permit going to do for us?
I think it's it's something that would be something clear enough that the average person will understand what we're talking about. It's simple. And it's realistically the zone of trees that we're gonna be most able to protect, especially with the smaller.
Yeah, I certainly don't think it's that we don't care about the other trees, but what we're attempting to address specifically is the clear cutting of lots for construction.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, does that mean that within that zone we're looking at, we're still only looking at a certain caliber, or is that so it means? Or
So
just every
trees
tree?
within the tree save, within the tree yard
Yeah.
would be protected.
Yeah, every
trees.
tree, no matter what the diameter.
No,
I
in the
need to-
definitions.
Yeah, the definitions
protected
have yet
trees
to,
says-
well, first of all, the definitions have yet to be set.
Good suggestions.
But there are some values about what size we need to save and how that needs to be treated.
Yes.
We haven't made all those decisions yet.
Very
Is it
good, has her hand raised also, and I can't see it on here
Oh,
for some reason. but I can
Sorry,
see it.
Erica, yes? Just
That's
go-
okay. Unless, did you have an additional conversation with Chris about
Yeah.
this since the last time we talked to him?
Yes, I just got a call from him today about this. So this was
Okay,
a
that's
follow-up
why
from
you're
the
having
last
this
meeting.
conversation now.
Yeah,
Exactly.
sorry, it sounds like
Okay.
your audio issues maybe made you miss that. She did
I think
just-
so. Yeah, Okay.
Does Wellesley run this within their planning board?
They do,
Nice.
That's why.
but
they're-
not all towns do.
Does Wellesley have a perimeter like we're thinking?
Yes,
Yeah.
they do the same.
And how are they, okay, so they have, no-
Very similar.
so they have no problem defining it within a planning board language.
So-
This is a planning
It's- yeah.
board. Okay.
So, I mean, if it becomes too tricky, then, that's a conversation we'll have to have, but it's not my preference.
The other consideration is that if it's a general bylaw, it's not affected by any Dover amendment cases. That was a question that came up with, stormwater, so the Dover amendment basically bypasses a lot of zoning bylaws, but doesn't touch general bylaws, like whatever's, but if you have a Dover amendment case, it's still whatever general bylaws are in place, still apply.
Pretty
Yeah.
low number of cases, but still. Oscar?
Just a question, I think, maybe the question more about how, if we're coming up with a general description, how is it related to conservation? And wetlands and stuff, because if we're saying unbuildable, that does start to cover a term that might be a wetlands or setback from.
So we don't have that term within the wetlands, right?
Unbuildable? No.
Unbuildable.
No.
However,
We have
Well,
buffer
I
zone.
think we could say outside of the buildable area of a yard.
Outside
I
of
don't
the
think
buildable
we have to
area.
create a new term necessarily.
Yeah.
Just trying to-
Buildable area is
is
a
a
thing.
term.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's defined, right? Buildable area is defined
No.
within the
I
zoning.
don't think so. I
I'm
think
looking at
it's
the
just,
zoning definitions. in the
yeah,
bylaws anyway.
it's a,
Right.
right, so we would have to, do some research, but I'm just saying it's not like a buildable area is defined by our zoning bylaw. We're talking about the area outside of the buildable area, that's,
So. I understand the complexities of having to go through the, I really. Realistically speak. It kind of makes sense.
well, I don't think that we know that until we have this conversation with Chris. So I don't wanna
Okay.
jump to any conclusions, but
That's
it may
fair.
be, it may turn out that way,
That's
I'm
fair.
just saying, let's let it lie.
That's fair.
Can I understand what is like the fundamental, and maybe Chris needs to answer this, but what is the fundamental concern that we're doing something that is the purview? If we make reference to something zoning related, then it should have gone through the channel of planning board and then it's right for,
It's
like-
not unfixable, I mean, it's like. The select board has created a process and a route for
Yeah.
this to happen.
So it's more a
Right,
matter of
yeah,
sticking to consistent,
You have
good
to-
governance principles rather than like, it makes it right for somebody to say,
Yeah,
this is useless because you should have gone through the planning board. I mean, I think that would be quite a nuance.
I mean, again, it's
Uh,
very similar to the stormwater
Yeah.
bylaw that just passed,
Well, that
deals with a lot of this.
but I think if it would then have, if it was then coming to town meeting as a zoning bylaw, that's a purview of the planning board, it would have, I think it should have to at some point go through the planning board for them to take a look at it themselves before it goes to town meeting. I think it would, since they're the ones having to regulate it, reinforce it.
Well, right.
It should needs to go through them before his town meeting, if that's how it's gonna do.
Well, then we would have to redo the whole process. I mean,
Right,
not
Well-
that's what I'm
not redo the
thinking.
work
Well, we're not gonna
necessarily.
work, it has to go, we'd have to go to the planning board for them to look at and decide what they're going to do, they don't, the open meetings, they're gonna have to decide.
Now I understand,
Yeah, it's just a,
it's
A lot of
it's a procedural.
So the real concern is we're gonna lose momentum, and this is gonna take longer. If we have.
well, I think that there's other issues. The one that Josh
Mhm.
just brought up, some exceptions for the Dover Amendment, also to pass the zoning bylaw is a majority of 2/3, whereas the regular bylaw is majority, I think, is that correct? Right? So it's a lower threshold in town meeting, which might be important depending on how our feedback goes. I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues. Also, it's the select board that then is responsible for and maintenance and establishing all of the fees and penalties, whatever might go along with it. It's just like I'm handing a big project to someone else.
Right.
Another board is not usually the way we like to do. Officer.
Just a question, more procedural. If there are disputes or if there are conditions that need an appeal or something, does the fact that we have this bylaw under the select board and there may be a relationship to a building project to tear down or whatever, which is gonna be planning board? And is there any added confusion with how that all gets administered or who administers it? Or does it always get caught by ZBA or some kind of?
Change it.
It should not, so.
I mean, tell us your experience.
So for
with
stormwater, we spent a lot of time discussing the authority, the regulating authority.
Mhm.
And we decided that basically anyone who touches a permit, if it's DPW or planning board or zoning board of appeals or conservation, is a regulating authority and they administer the stormwater bylaw. And so I think we would have to make, or planning board, whoever is doing this process
Right.
has to decide who the authority is.
Right, and so to that end, Gabby has prepared a memo to all of the town departments so that early on in the process, they all get to weigh in and discuss kind of what challenges and obstacles they see. We've already talked about potential staff burden, but this is more like just these questions. How does this road through? Who is, got the authority, who has hands on the ball at any given point, who finds that there are challenges that might.
If we defined trees as infrastructure, would that help us? Take this out of the zoning, territory?
No idea. We can certainly bring out, I'm sure
It's-
that would be.
Well, it seems like stormwater is sort of an infrastructure issue, and it's like something that merits treatment on its own, and
I feel like in this case, it's more of like a community good, but
Right.
Wait, so in stormwater, all the regulations related to how much water you can retain on your property is linked to the square footage of impervious surface on the property. So it's not linked to lot lines or even the size of the lot. The more driveway or house you have on the lot, the more water you have to store on the land.
Huh,
right, and the impervious surface is obviously indirectly related to the lot size.
Yeah.
But you're not, you're able to avoid dealing with what zone you're in.
So I was similar to Oscar, but mine was more specific. have you ever had any of your votes go to the ZBA? The select board stuff, is that regulated by the ZBA as an authority as well?
In what context?
Well, just, I mean, someone's objecting to the vote, they wanna bring it to a different level in town, so they go to the ZBA.
Oh, like an appeals
Yeah, I wanna
process?
appeal it, yeah.
So,
ZBA does just something.
Well, that's the question, does,
yes,
yeah, well, if it was at the select board, the appeal process of it is a court segment. Where the planning board, the appeal process is the ZBA, so at least initially.
stormwater had to set an appeal process as well. So, if you disagree with an opinion, who do you appeal to?
Right, but currently, what board is
No, this is just in general.
Yeah,
Board of
I
Appeals.
understand.
Yeah.
So then
I
you
can't
have to
think of
be-
any
Yeah,
offhand.
I
That
agree
doesn't
with,
mean I'm referring
I
to.
agree in principle, I do agree with you, trees are part of the infrastructure, in principle, I agree. I don't know if we'll ever get that definition passed, anyone to understand that, but I
think
agree
we
in
need-
principle.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds like
That's it.
lots of ideas, but sounds like we do need to schedule just some time with Chris to like, discuss all of these issues.
That's really for this dispute, this resolution is gonna get to be, they'd have to come to you to talk about, well, we think we don't have to take this tree down, or we don't have to do this protection, and then it's gonna be requiring that there's a set of plans that are used for documentation, and then that starts to get outside of your wheelhouse.
Well, not
You have-
necessarily, I
Unless you
mean,
bring the planning board to the
currently,
meeting.
if there's a tree, a public tree. That needs to be taken down on the sidewalk, that comes to us, and that should be on the plan. I mean, that's part of what we're trying to put on the plan.
Yeah, to
So-
consolidate the.
So,
private
yeah, so I
property.
don't know, we'll have to, honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
So just that we're clear. For Chris, if he comes and he's able to come to a meeting with us, we're looking for guidance on not only the language we're going to use and how we're going to determine the yard, the tree yard, right?
Also the path.
But also the path for potential
Yep.
authority and also appeals
Enforcement.
and enforce, okay.
Right, yeah, I mean, enforcement. Would be. Okay. And, yeah, that's
Yeah,
already part of
it's part
what
of-
we do, but it's good to have the conversation so that we can clarify what we need his help with, and all of this is that, so, we'll just kind of keep going here. So I guess, we should be reviewing the bylaw. I'd love to get some of these other things up to date a little bit, if anyone doesn't have strong feelings about moving along.
So hold off on the bylaw and jump.
Well, I'd like to make sure that we get to everything. Because we have this community meeting coming up, and I'd love to kind of talk about what we want to do for that. So that we have adequate time to have that discussion without rush. So unless anybody has an objection, I'd like to discuss the November 19th. So in our first meeting, we had a very minor presentation. We had tables where we had discussion, like community members could just settle themselves around tables. We sort of talked about what's important, what people like about trees. Think about trees, whatever. Does anyone have any strong feelings about how the format of this should take place?
What are we trying to elicit?
Well, so I think it's important to me that we address kind of the main project, which is that we have a number of educational projects that we want to do, but for the purposes of this meeting, that we're trying to create a bylaw, and that the main and most important issue in that bylaw is the creation of the tree yard. And I guess here, what I'm actually thinking is that we probably need Chris at some point prior to that, not only because we want to vet the idea of the tree yard and how that would work, but also how we can talk about it in a public meeting.
So our next committee meeting is November 17th, which is just 2 days before the 19th.
And actually, I probably won't be at that meeting, because that is the school forum, and I imagine that Josh would probably. So. Maybe we'll have to either. And set up an additional group meeting or have. Chairs. Meeting Chris to elaborate on some boundaries.
Do you have preference for,
Well, my preference would be to do group meeting.
yeah,
I think the ideas that come out in the meeting are really valuable.
We move the 7th meeting earlier.
we can certainly move that meeting. It's just a question of getting everybody in the
I
room.
mean, the meeting, the Pollard meeting.
Sorry, I meant the date, earlier date. Not
earlier hour.
Like
Yeah,
next
yeah,
week.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, that's, I think, what we're.
Yeah, yeah. Do you wanna look at schedules? Go ahead and see.
Pull out your calendars. We'll take a look.
And also if Chris is available.
Yeah, if we can get a couple dates, ideally,
Yeah.
best case scenario, then I can check with Chris.
I agree, we wouldn't be able to prepare for that meeting without having a consultation with him.
So, in terms of timing, what's the earliest meeting that folks can do? Would 6 o'clock an option?
Yeah, I mean, earlier if necessary. It's
On
not
a
long.
Tuesday or
It's not
Thursday.
long.
On
It's not long.
I'm thinking about the 13th.
I
Yep.
cannot do 13th.
How about an early meeting on Monday, the 10th?
As early, you mean,
In the morning.
Off.
No, I mean like a 6.
Oh,
6 p.m.
Schools are closed both days.
I'm flying back from Paris.
Oh, lucky you.
we do this, so.
Well, the 11th is a holiday.
Memphis Day.
And the 12th, we have a 6 o'clock select board meeting, so.
John, did we get something over for you?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I can ask around and see if there's someone else who could cover that meeting on the 13th.
Okay, well-
To facilitate it,
Yeah,
it's just getting up with Zoom and everything.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get someone good.
What about the 6th? This Thursday.
You don't have 48 hours to post the meeting.
The 6 either.
Okay, well, hopefully,
13th?
the 13th could work for us. We'll have to,
commission meeting, oh, good. 13 commission meeting,
Yes,
what time do you guys usually?
7.
it's at 7.
So if we met at 6, we could just confine our discussion to one issue.
1 hour.
Yeah.
And hopefully like get it squared away, because that'll allow us to talk about it at the public meeting and also, move along. Because I think until we solve this issue, it's
Mhm.
hard
Would you
to.
repeat that, please?
We're talking about
Thursday.
Thursday, the 13th at 6. For an
I have a
hour.
7:30 meeting. Do you
Totally.
think it'll work?
Yep.
6 to 7.
Okay.
Can we make it a Zoom or does that have to be in person, since it's a short meeting?
I mean,
Well, where anyone can do that.
It'll be hybrid again.
Yeah, and I guess it's always the choice of hybrid, but sometimes we say the whole thing.
I think that's a good idea, that we do the meeting. in
we can
preparation
do
for-
it hybrid, sure. And let's just confirm that Chris.
Yeah.
and then all the others.
Are we still gonna have the meeting the following week?
Yes.
17th.
The
19th.
And the 19th.
In the.
And the
structure of
19th is the
last
public
one we
meeting.
had, I think was really effective.
I think that hang on one second, I think that we should still have the meeting on the 17th. Okay, because you won't have been at the other one, we will have things to square away before the.
we can at least get stuff going with
Yeah,
this.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even though I assume that you won't
I haven't
attend,
decided, I don't know.
I won't attend, be at the Pollard meeting, but, but I. So, well, so sorry, what did you say, Claire?
I think, yes, once that is kind of out of the way and we have a plan in terms of the boundaries and how we're going to discuss the information, I think formal plans was very effective in my opinion, so.
We had that.
Public
The public
Having
meeting.
a conversation.
Instead of having that many tables, we reduce the number.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that concerns me is. Not concern, but like I think we need to think about, so if we're presenting information, like we're gonna present this idea of the tree yard, I think it'll be. Really important to present that kind of visually as well, so we'll have to work on like, how we do that, especially once we talk to Chris. People are gonna have feelings. And typically, they wanna express those feelings to everyone at once. So,
We just have an open mind.
well, right,
Or-
I do think that there is really valuable to have those tables so that people can like kind of talk in
Bang.
community, but, I don't know, what do you all think?
Well, I think the tables work well. I mean, when the Large House Review, when we first had our meeting, Lee presented the idea of having presentation tables, come back Q and A's, and then have a list of every table of what was said. And I found that very useful.
But
So
at
I
the
see
second
no
meeting-
reason to not do the same.
But at the second large house meeting, we did not do it that way
Mhm.
because we did
You're
the data.
getting into reactions. and
Yeah,
Hearing
because
and
we
getting
did the data
information
dump.
and,
Yeah.
and everybody wants to participate
Yeah.
probably on a
Yeah.
global scale.
I mean, if there's a separate, if there's another reason not to have the tables, then we can have presentation and Q and A's. As long as we have questions and answer period. That's the biggest thing.
So is the objective to get the feedback and report it and come back to the table and implement or
I think-
act upon
We
it?
can also do live polling, which is really helpful for, I mean, it's not definitive or scientific necessarily, but at least you can read the room.
Interesting.
And it was, because you see it happening live, and so if, depending on the size of the crowd and the conversation, but we moved into that as the final step in our large house committee meeting.
Yeah.
Republican.
Yeah, I mean, we can
It's-
definitely consider that.
But the conversation, I think, is what is
Well, I
basically
mean, I
reacting
think-
to stuff that's getting presented, so how would you break out to small tables and then what would you be doing? You're kind of opening it back up again, but then you gotta bring that all back together, so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
you
sort of-
could have
you're
like
creating
a
a bunch of different
gravity
s-
table kind of the way that we did originally, it's just that people. My impression. like to- Especially if they're concerned about their property rights. To have like more direct.
Yeah, I like the idea of an open mic. I'm wondering if we'll have enough information for them to react to.
Right.
I think, well, so the idea of the tree yard is central to this bylaw. We don't have the tree yard, then the bylaw is like undone. So I think having people react to that concept is really important. And at least for us to publicize that concept is really important, like immediately. And then we're gonna refine it from there. So I guess, well, the thing isn't gonna be written, and there's gonna be lots yet to come. I think it's like the foundational concept of the bylaw, and if we don't let them react, I think we'll regret it.
But we have two issues, right? What is the boundary and what is this thing? And then what does that now mean we're going to be doing with this boundary? So like just so describing what kind of trees, what's the process? And so in other words, they understand why we're setting this up is so that it has to get documented and run through the basic
Yeah,
decision
exactly. We have to-
tree.
yeah,
So there's a
exactly.
decision tree, here's the yard, and now that we're doing
And then-
that, that gives us the ability to do blah, blah, blah.
yeah, and then also
then
kind of the
talk-
circumstances that trigger the bylaw, things like
Yeah,
that, because
yeah.
people are gonna be really concerned, are we gonna mandate that you cut down certain trees on your property and blah, blah, blah. And I noticed that Nick put a comment there, I'm sorry if I didn't see your hand. But Nick, did you wanna make a comment, cause I couldn't read it, just too fast.
Oh, that's okay. I think we have way less to do in a presentation than the large house committee had to cover. I mean, that was that was so much information to digest in that large house community. You know, I mean, that was, it was awesome, but that was like a fire hose of information to try and wrap your arms around. I think we could cover our ground and what's being proposed in much shorter period, and people will get their arms around the concepts, I think, pretty fast. So I would think we could do a short presentation, still table, you know, so that everybody can talk, and then do a Q&A, but that's just my instinct.
Your steps would be presentation in the room, breakout. Recap the breakout from all the individual conversations. And then. Follow up with a Q&A, so whatever gets
Yeah, I mean, I suppose-
reiterated from a table conversation or a point made by a table can come to the group.
yeah, if we had a member of the committee at each table or 2 members, then we could at least clarify, like maybe try and answer some questions and then come back and have public comment. Erica, you have your hand up?
I did. I think that we ought to think about how we ought to think about how many tables we want to populate based on the number of people that attend. I felt like we had too many tables at the last listening session. So each table had maybe 2 or 3 committee members or helpers of committee members, and then like only 1 or 2 or, you know, maybe 3 community, you know, people from the public. So I think we want to have a certain size of people from the community at each table so that the discussion can be fostered. Yes, you want the committee members to be able to clarify, but you don't want them to have to lead the discussion. And you really want to get, you know, the people to feed off of one another and to get, you know, as much information as you can from them. So I would say you want to have like a minimum of 6 people from the public at each table, and then you
It'll be tricky.
I know.
To confirm how many people, I mean, we're not gonna ask for RSVPs, so.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if you remember, Heidi, but at our table, it was you and me and my friend Marion
Your friends.
and the student and maybe one other person.
No, point totally taken, Erica. I'm not, so we might have to be ready to like, you know,
Yeah.
react.
Right.
Change our plan on
Not
that.
like you can say.
Like, we can set up the
project-
tables and we can set up
And then just
chairs,
bring the
and then if
2
nobody
round tables.
shows, then we don't go to the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's, we can't ask people to tell us if they're coming, especially because I'll just remind everyone that there are 3 major public forums that week, and we're the 3rd
Oh.
one.
Oh.
Yeah,
sure.
so-
we will have a little probably diminished.
There's gonna be a little bit of
Energy
fatigue.
turnout.
Luckily our large house is before yours.
Well, I don't know, it might be the
Depends on-
same crowd. you
It's
know,
yours
so we might-
too,
we
Artie.
might- You might rob us of some attention.
So I wanna ask, to take a step back, because I think the original point you were making is maybe we don't have significant substantive material to be presenting in different, you know, breakouts. So I'm wondering, what are the most significant points that we want, or at least identify we want to bring to the table and to present to them? Because I think that, yes, the tree yard is important, and we'll cover that with Chris, but what other key concepts do we want to bring to them, aside from the process and everything that we presented initially? What additional information are we bringing to them this time around?
Well, so it's mostly concepts, it's not gonna be a bylaw, it's gonna be the creation of the tree yard. What a protected tree is, and what this means you can do with the rest of your yard, because people's. I mean, and I mean, feel free to chime in, but I think that people are gonna, I've already met people who are like, don't tell me what I can do with my property. I wanna be able to add on to my house, this is buildable area, so don't tell me what I have to do with trees in this area. And when I say, we're really only looking at trees in an area that lines up with the setbacks, where you can't build anyway, people are like, oh, okay. So I think it will actually, I mean, some people will have trouble with this concept, obviously, but I think it will set a reasonable expectation on the behalf of the public and help them understand, like, what we're setting out. And then, we want to talk about how you can take trees down and what happens. And we're not prohibiting any particular use, but there are consequences to some of the actions. You take a tree down, you need to replace it. So I think we would want to outline those kinds of things
Okay.
and let people know the direction that we're headed in. We don't have a bylaw yet. I think it's premature to present anything other than these concepts, but I think reactions to these concepts will be really helpful in guiding us in creating the rest of the bylaw.
But, so you were asking what else would bring? I don't remember, I don't think we brought any of this last time. I mean, should we spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about trees and why what the benefit they have, or why we're trying to preserve our trees? Because I don't think we've done anything.
We did a bit of that at the first, but we can certainly
Real-
incorporate that
some
into the
some real
presentation.
education of,
Sure.
because there's a lot people don't understand. And from what the trees
Yeah.
do for the
And
environment, do for the
It
soil,
might be a different.
do for the soil.
Yeah, and I think we can also talk a little bit about the educational endeavors that we're gonna undertake and bring in a lot of that.
I think if we have something at the beginning that just either incorporates it, or literally is a separate, here is about trees.
Sure.
Oh, and here's what we're gonna try to do to try to preserve some of it. The more people understand, the more they'll be okay.
And also, I think procedurally, what are the new steps now to just have to walk through so people know?
Yeah, like,
What they're
here's
required to
we
prepare.
have an outline.
Yeah.
I think we should
Yeah.
need to present the outline
Yeah.
and give people a chance to digest it, and then we take feedback and keep moving along.
But again, people wanna know why. They
I
wanna know
understand.
why. If
I
we
heard
don't,
you.
we don't
Start
tell
with
them,
that, yeah.
yeah, if we don't tell them why, gotta tell them, just like the large house,
I
you
get
know,
it.
why.
What are the goals?
Already said something earlier that I keep thinking about, that you can build a shed within, or an accessory.
Yeah, accessory structure.
Structure
Yeah,
within
5
the
feet.
setbacks.
Yeah, within 5 feet.
Different set.
Different size, sure. But that poses a potential for conflict where
Mhm.
the tree bylaw, whatever perimeter we set, says you can't take down a tree, but then the zoning bylaw says by right you can.
We're not saying that you can't take down a tree, just that there are certain consequences for doing it.
Yeah, okay, so.
Yeah,
But
But
the
you are raising a
overstated, but
question,
there's a
though.
conflict.
Yeah, yeah,
If
we'll have
somebody
to-
wants to
yes,
certainly have
add
to
a
resolve it.
small structure
Right.
that is within 5 feet, it's in that tree yard, and therefore.
Yeah.
If there's a tree right where they wanna do this,
Yeah.
or within, if there are roots issues, I mean, again, these are not foundation buildings. So you probably can get away with a shed that's not gonna affect roots,
10 by 10.
but that would be something good to know.
A 10 by 10 foot doesn't need a permit. Any permit, 10 by 10 foot.
Right, but I mean, when these things are put in, they're not digging foundations, simply they're putting on cinder blocks and gravel, whatever. So I'm just saying, is there a necessarily conflict besides, yes, if I wanna put my shed where that nice beautiful tree is, that's a
Right.
check, that's a trigger.
But
So
there's
it's
no,
not gonna, that's not gonna trigger anything.
exactly, there's
Not
no
our current
permit
trigger.
requirement for that.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that's an issue.
So, well,
Because it's a conflict.
it's a conflict and we'll have to resolve it, but I think it doesn't.
But will
I
it
think
come
it's-
up?
This is a little bit of. A little further down the road.
I guess the reason why I keep thinking about it is when we go to the public and share this idea,
Mhm.
I wanna be able to offer answers to questions.
But we're not gonna have answers to all.
Is
So-
there a benefit then in just waiting a little bit to do the public session a little bit later when we have more answers and more information?
Well, I mean, we can talk about it. I don't think so, because I think the longer we wait,
Feedback is.
the harder it's gonna be. Like, I feel like we've gone too far already without having some public view into what we're talking about and the discussions that we're having.
It's the goal of transparency,
Yeah.
think for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel like if we're gonna, if we're operating on the premise that we're gonna make this tree yard, yes, there are conflicts that we have to resolve. I feel like we need to get that out there. ASAP, because if we continue to move forward and there's, hue and cry or a legal challenge or, you know, whatever. The sooner we know about it, the better. Whether we decide to continue on the same path or change our
Why we're
plan, I
doing
mean,
this.
I just don't see how we do that without, and, you know, people always say, well, I didn't know, it wasn't out there. Well, this is how we get it out there, and if we wait, I just feel like it's bad news. I
Yeah.
get that it's hard to go out there without answers, and that would be part of the presentation.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard to be out here without something
But
written
we'll
down
get
to show
back to
you,
you.
here are our operating principles.
The other consideration I'm thinking of is if this is the third of 3 big meetings that week.
Yeah.
Are we going to? We may not expect a large audience, but also, you know, for transparency's sake, like we want as many people as possible to be able to come to the meeting.
Well, they can come via Zoom too. I mean, it's not ideal, but then it's the holidays and then it's
Is it
Christmas
recorded?
season and.
Will we record
Yeah,
this?
sure,
So people
sure,
can view it after.
sure.
Well, I suppose the one thing is also the fact that this isn't stopping another public meeting when we have more information. This is one along the process, then we have more information, then we'll have another public meeting. I mean, I personally wouldn't have a problem delaying this public meeting until we have a little bit more set in, not set in stone, but more knowledge, more understanding from the person. That being said, having it, it's not gonna hurt, because we're gonna have another one next year, sometime next year, early part, whatever it is next year.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the rub is always that if you wait and you go with stuff written, then people are like, they have already made the decisions. And if you go with the premise, but nothing written, then it's too early. And I just feel like I'd rather err on the side of too early
Mhm.
than too late.
I think there's enough in the parameter in that, to say.
I
to
agree,
have
because these are
people
really important.
Actually ask questions just like that. I mean, I think there'll be questions that come because we've got enough information. It's just not all nailed down and written. So it feels like it's a productive time to get more input because we can't think about everything necessarily as a committee. So give people a chance to weigh in.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not gonna hurt.
So,
I'm good with it, oh, I'm sorry,
no,
Josh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm good with it, provided that we're going to have the meeting with Chris and discuss exactly what we can.
Oh, yeah, we
have.
need to do that.
So I'm confident that, you know, that meeting is gonna be instrumental for us to develop those talking points. So I'm good with having the meeting the way it's set up. Provided that we still have many unanswered.
Yeah,
items
and
that
that'll
we
be
need to
part
bring
of, that'll
to-
be part of the presentation, like, we're coming to you early, this is still in the works. We want your feedback while we're doing the work, not after it's done. So, I mean, I think that's legitimate. Did you have a question for Gabby?
I was gonna ask if we could have that specific question for Chris, like what happens if there is a potential conflict between a general bylaw and the zoning bylaw?
I'll put it on the list.
And the thing is that they don't need a permit if they're going to put a 5x5 shed. Tear down the permit, so
10 by 10.
unless it's a 10x10, which.
You know, even 10 by 10. Doesn't need a permit.
Yeah, so
20, 100.
technically, I mean. They would put the shed and tear down the tree and we would never know.
Yeah. We personally, while that is technically a conflict, I mean, we know that happens all the time now, but we never know. And it's also not the, you know, it's the 80-20 rule, like, it's not the 80% of tree loss that we're trying to address. So while we need to resolve it and we need to discuss it, it's also not the main event in my mind.
And that's just one example. I mean, like, are there other cases like with utilities where people have a right to put in a utility that might be in this tree yard? I don't know.
Well, we had that conversation. I think we still need to get.
Well,
that
yeah,
question
we
back
need
to your question.
Yeah, the front setbacks, we need to discuss that with.
And that could actually be, we just acknowledge that that's a discussion point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get feedback.
Yeah, I think it's fair to tell the public, like, there are lots of unresolved items, and you'll probably bring up more here tonight, and we'll note them down and we'll talk about it, you know, but like, if we don't get that input, there will be stuff that we miss. It's fair to move it forward. So, so what I'm hearing is that we're okay to do the presentation pending quality time with Chris. And that the group generally feels okay with a presentation. And then do we come to a decision about tables versus open mic or tables and open mic?
I guess, make a case for no tables. I know that might be unpopular,
Uh,
but I think because there's so many open questions, I think it's important that everyone hears what they are.
I agree.
Yeah, because if you go off, you might, and then we have to, there's a lot of confusion, I think, in bringing stuff back and then reporting it back out.
No, I think
It's
so.
just, there could be a lot of stuff that gets cumbersome.
Yeah, maybe one of the other meetings when we have a little bit more knowledge of what we're talking about.
Well, when we can
You know,
hand
we can have
people
tables
like,
that-
here's what it is. Then I feel like, the answers can be there, but with everything still up in the air, I agree. I'd rather hear, well, I think people will appreciate being able to express their opinion or question out loud to the group. But I also feel like it's more helpful, rather than having that filtered through a scribe or, from a list or whatever. I think it's to have it just out there.
I'd go back to what Artie, I think, started maybe an hour ago about the tree yard. I struggle with the tree yard. I thought the charge here was to save every tree we can. Triggered by new building, new construction. We're hearing about the tear down, so we were gonna basically say if there's a tear down, tree bylaw gets triggered, you have to have a tree plan. The tree yard confuses me, and I just wanted to hear from Kurt. What is your opinion of the tree yard? You deal with Wellesley, and do you think this tree yard concept, for me, I think keep it simple. We don't want you taking down any trees at all. If you take down trees, you mitigate or you pay. That's it. There's no sides, back, front. It's no trees taken down at all. That's our purpose. Save as many trees as possible. So the tree yard thing is like, don't touch this, don't touch that. It's like way too confusing, especially for me as a tree warden. It's like, get my my book out to say, oh, what concept? It's like, whoa. I just want to see a plan that says, here are the trees existing, here's what's being proposed to be taken down, here's our mitigation plan, here's our check. Simple. What's your opinion of a tree yard? And I know why Wellesley did it, but I don't think we need to do it in Needham, to be honest with you. I think we're going through a lot of conversation here for maybe not,
I mean, I
might
think it's
not
a
be necessary for Needham.
good faith effort by the town to kind of show they're willing to work with the developer, which we appreciate.
Yeah,
And, it does get expensive when you start taking these trees down, and at what point does it get prohibitively expensive?
mhm.
Like, I forget what, I'm not gonna misquote it, but it was, if I were to not mitigate with new trees, it was, tens of thousands of dollars to the tree bank.
Mhm.
That's on top of the tree,
Plans.
the arborist and the plans and all that stuff, so.
And the cost of removals.
The cost of removals and,
Mhm.
I don't know, at what point do we stop, do the towns give a little bit to the developers? I think that was probably their main reason too. I don't.
And I wanted to hear that from you, because I wanted
Yeah.
everybody to understand what the concept of the tree yard was in Wellesley, and I just wanted to make sure people are understanding. And that's what it was. So
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, that's,
thank you for articulating
yeah,
that from the
I
builder's
appreciate
point.
that.
Could I'm sorry, could you said you understood why Wellesley did it? Why?
Bigger areas,
Just
Right.
bigger lawns, bigger yards. So they're
That's
basically
bigger.
saying this is to the builder because you have a lot of land in Wellesley. Here, we got no land. So again, if the builder's gonna build to the minimum setbacks, the trees are a moot point. Like I said, they're already gone. So it's how much you're gonna replant or how much you're gonna pay. It's not about the setbacks. It's about, we have to squeeze in this massive home that's 10 feet away from the side setbacks, and that's it. Wellesley, you have massive lots that you can build, and that was the reason for this in Wellesley.
Yeah.
And thank you for articulating that, because that's exactly what it was. Here, I don't think we need to even think about it here in Needham.
I see that Nick has his hand up.
Yeah.
I mean, my recollection of that first meeting with Chris was we didn't have the ability to regulate what happened inside of those setback lines, and that the tree yard space was the only space that we could impose rules about what trees could be cut down or not cut down, and that we couldn't find other bylaws, for example, that had tree preservation rules inside of those setbacks, and that's where that came from. That was the only area that we would be able to impose some sort of bylaw or zoning or sort of impose a vision for preserving trees. And that was a hard line in the sand. And once you cross that setback line, you know, that's a building
It's a
zone.
little different. Yeah, my recollection is a little different. I think we started this looking at the small lots that were where houses were being torn down, replaced, and the lot was being clear cut. And we discussed at the outset that many of these smaller lots, 10,000 square feet and less, like there isn't a conflict necessarily. For the most part, those houses, when they come down, that buildable area will be cleared by the removal of the house. And that we felt that if there were going to be trees on the lot, they were going to be in that setback area, because a lot of these lots are fairly small and that's where you could put a tree. And so those were the trees that we were targeting to save, and that we were going to resolve a lot of conflicts and property rights discussion by allowing the buildable area to be mitigatable. That we were going to have a protected tree zone, and that was going to facilitate making this an actual thing versus making a bylaw, as 2 committees before us have done, that goes nowhere because the public absolutely rejects it.
Not the storm.
Good job.
Awesome.
I was gonna ask Kurt, have you been in Wellesley in both, by right, new house project and a large house review?
No, this is the first one that we're doing, so.
So to your point about why Wellesley did what they did, and what I've understood when we went through our large house discussions with planning in Wellesley, their discussion about the process for trees is by right, submit the plan, do your mitigation, do what you're gonna do, build your house. If you go to large house, then the planning board or the ZBA, whether it's a non-conforming conforming lot, has the ability to bring back discussion about trees that are not in the tree yard. And therefore, if you got a big, beautiful, whatever, it's in the house zone, then the conversation with that planning board process with your large house includes note all the trees, basically to have a, you know, a more detailed discussion about design solutions that could now even put more owners, you know, demands to save us a tree. Besides just what's in the tree yard. So, and since we're trying to, not overburden you.
No, I didn't mean, you can burden me, I just wanted to make sure we were all kind of clear, because
To me, it
I'm a
feels
little
like
confused by.
Feels like the balance. Feels
It's a
like
balancing
it's a balancing act to say, we're gonna try and find a and again, I think you're right about the relative sizes of lots. Has a major impact on what comes down and what goes back up again, and so it feels like the tree. I haven't really questioned that, but I do think it's interesting that. I don't know if you were saying in what you described, are you saying that the reason to not have the tree yard and just record all the trees is that you think that would be a benefit to the town to be able to get more mitigation? So.
Or just the concept of saving as many trees.
No, I don't disagree with that concept.
I'm not trying to do a money
That's
grab.
even our charge.
Yeah.
I think that's your charge, but I don't think that's this committee's charge. And so, I mean, and I'm not making light, I want to be clear about it, because
I don't even
I don't know that we
to be
can
honest with
say
you,
it's
do we have
all
a
of it.
charge? I remember
We
the
do.
first meeting, okay, so I'd have to read our
to
charge
make,
again.
you know, and part of it is making sure that our canopy doesn't diminish.
Right,
by a
right.
certain date, whatever. But I think, my concern about it is that, as I say, 2 tree committees have come up with bylaws, have gone down in flames over. Basically, if we don't have a tree bylaw that will pass, that is palatable, and then it has some sort of balance, we won't have a tree bylaw. And then we're,
Nowhere.
I mean, so to me, you know, getting a good solid little is better than not having it.
So let me ask you something, if there is, for example, not that there are that many lots in Needham, unfortunately, that are, you know, fully wooded lots, that are buildable, right? But let's say for all purpose and intentions that we have a lot and Kirk comes and says, okay, we're gonna do a subdivision here, and aside from the tree yard area, it's a wooded lot. It's a clean slate for any developer. So I kind of want to make sure that we capture the difference between Fred doing an expansion of his house and not having to deal with the removal of trees outside tree yard to a potential, you know, major development, which a major development will probably trigger, you know, CDA and all of those other folks. I like the idea that you presented that when it goes beyond X, then they look at every tree. So I'm not sure, trying to strike a
So if it
balance
was a kind
here.
of project that were to trigger a greater
Right, because I
scrutiny
think
of,
we
because it
don't,
hasn't defined its lots
right,
yet.
so I think to strike a balance, I think that would be important. I'm not sure where and how, but I think it would be important to kind of have that expectation that this is for X, but in the event that this is
For
X,
individually defined lots, this is the process, if this is a potentially a subdivision.
not that there are many lots.
Well, look at
you know,
what just
like-
happened up the street there. Where they took down hundreds of trees and built that little 4-house Pace Builders or whatever, right up here off of South Street, on the edge of South Street. So that's a perfect example. That was one home that had acres and acres of land, sold, developed, got everything now.
Oh, yeah, well, that's-
And then he started building the lots.
Okay,
So
but
that's
I
what
think
I'm
we need
thinking.
to.
That's the example though
we
that
need
he's
to
talking
also
about.
be realistic about
Yeah,
the reach
understood.
that we can.
Well, that's why I'm
That's-
bringing it
that's
up.
an
because-
And that's like a super zoning, I mean, that is a zoning.
Right, but what I'm-
You're subdividing lots.
No,
So I
and I
think
get
that's an
it, I
important-
get it, I understand, I actually
Should
get
trigger
it,
something else.
but what I'm thinking is somewhere, you know, we are doing a tree bylaw. And these are, you know, the limits of our tree bylaw, but somewhere. Somewhere, whether it's in the ZBA or the planning, they need to then enforce a larger
Yeah, I
management.
don't disagree, but I wanna be clear that we talked about at the beginning of this committee addressing
Sure.
the new construction tear down, not
But-
subdivision.
But that's new construction.
Well, no.
But it is new
Tear,
construction.
tear downs and
Mm.
replacement is what we were talking about.
Mhm.
Okay,
Tearing
so-
down, in these very small lot
Yeah, I agree.
neighborhoods. I do think it's a different situation. Doesn't mean that we don't ultimately try to address it, but I think it's really challenging to broaden the scope of a bylaw.
I don't think that's necessarily part of the scope. I mean,
It's a trigger.
And I understand, but I mean, but we were talking about clear cutting of lots, and there's some big lots that got, single lots that got clear cut. There was one lot, when we were looking at the natural resources, and it was 50, 100 trees, whatever it was. This got leveled, one house put on, it's one lot, and there were lots of trees that were further than 12 feet, 25 feet away from the side, one from the setback. And so, I mean, I understand maybe it's from, we want developers to do that, I don't want developers to do that. You know, give them a little bit, I mean, Natick acting, some of the towns have some regulations when they come in for development, they have to save some trees. I mean, they didn't save any trees in that one, clearly, no trees were saved there. I mean, I think Needham has a right and an obligation to have something where they have to save some trees.
Well, we can ask for
That's-
commentary, in our forum.
I
bring
think
up
it will
the-
come up in my.
That's great.
I don't see why it wouldn't be as just as simple as if this is a project that comes to. I guess we have to make sure we trigger. That if it's a
Well,
different
it's gonna
kind
have
of
a
single
construction
family,
permit.
if it's not a single family product, or if it's in the single family district, it's looking for subdivision, whatever it is. Whatever those checkpoints are, trigger points,
It's gonna be a new
it's
construction
gonna
permit,
trigger
so
a
it
comment,
should
it should come to you.
trigger our
And then it should come to the select
bylaw.
board and you should.
But if our bylaw is saying we're saving trees in
Just-
prescribed tree yard. And the buildable area is like free and clear. It
But if the buildable-
depends on what our definitions are gonna be, to see what the scope of that is gonna be, and we have to decide that. And decide what we think is reasonable.
I just think we should keep it on the table and come back to it.
We might not have solved it yet, but
No,
say
no, I mean,
for
all
larger
of these
projects that may.
Can be on the table, it's just that, we have to. Make sure that we. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we heard from some other towns that they started with with a certain bylaw and then in a subsequent year, they added to it.
Yeah.
And I would feel like it's pragmatic to start with something that we think would be palatable enough to the town to start with, and then
yeah, I mean,
became more.
yeah, if we think about this in chunks. The thing that got us here in the first place was especially the SRB tear down and replacement. So we wanna address that, because we started out, but it doesn't mean that we don't wanna address other things, it's just that I would like to see us do one impactful thing, at least, and then to keep going, but, the committee.
Is that another reason why to have a general bylaw, or is it easier to have amendments to the general bylaw as opposed to a zoning planning? Isn't that, it was one of the arguments we
Yeah, I
had?
mean, they
but-
still have to go by town
They do,
meeting,
but it's a little bit easier to.
easier.
make
And the
amendments.
threshold is lower, as they
Okay,
said
right.
in town meeting.
Just so, I mean, there was, like, what Paul Albert told me, the house behind his, so that house on Shells River Street, SRA, lockup level, completely level. And then, when I was on the Conservation Commission, this was another house on SRA, I believe, it was Pheasant Lane, maybe off of Chestnut, maybe.
Yeah, they're always gonna have.
An owner came to the Conservation Commission because he cut some of the trees in our resource zone, but he didn't just cut trees in the resource zone, he leveled his whole lot. And he came to us and said, with this massive backyard, all grass, and he said, isn't that beautiful? Every tree was right down. Isn't that beautiful? No, it wasn't beautiful at all.
Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes.
I think it occurred to me that instead of using setbacks, what if we said we want to protect a certain percentage of the lot square footage? And that would, for the larger lots, that would be more generous, probably, conservation.
On a sliding scale, like.
We wouldn't have to peg it to the zoning, which zone you're in.
Yeah.
We could just say, and then it's up to the discretion. I mean, obviously, a builder is gonna choose the perimeter to protect.
Sure.
But if we just set
That's a really good
a
idea.
percentage of the lot.
Let's vet that through Chris and see.
Can you also ask Chris, I think about what we do with subdivisions, just to see if he has any
Yeah,
additional thoughts.
we'll discuss it, but I don't wanna, hang on one second, Erica. The large house review is doing sort of a sliding scale of minimums, whatever, based on lot size, so that could kind of fit really nicely in. Erica? You're muted.
Muted.
I see a potential problem with that though, but because if you leave it up to the owner to decide which area to protect, they're just gonna protect the area that doesn't have any trees, and
Those areas don't count.
and then say, okay, well, this area is not, I'm not protecting this percentage of the area. I'm gonna protect this percentage of the area that I'm not
Yeah.
cutting any trees down on, because I have my, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we could word it so that we could
we could specify
Outsmart
that, we could specify that the perimeter is what we want to protect, but to just make it a percentage of the lot size as opposed to linking it up, hitching it up to the zoning setbacks.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something there. So
I
we'll
do
vet it
too.
through Chris before we spend too much time on it.
Yeah.
Nick. You're muted also.
Yeah.
Okay, oh, no, you're still on mute.
Still muted.
So I went in our our August 11th minutes, in the first paragraph, Chris Heap added that it was unlikely that a bylaw would run into any trouble if it requires tree preservation to such an extent on a lot that a buildable space becomes undevelopable. So that, again, and there's more discussion there, but that was a really major point, I feel like, early in our meeting, that if we started making developable land inside of the setback area undevelopable for some reason, that we were just asking for trouble, and that's why we stayed out of we stayed outside the setback area. And again, that's in the first paragraph of the August 11th meetings, if you guys want to look at that.
I don't think that conflicts with what Fred just
No.
said.
It doesn't, I don't think it conflicts, but it also, I think the fact that we will not forbid the cutting of the tree, we're just gonna ask for compensation and mitigation. I think that solves the
That's
problem.
like the.
We're not
Right.
forbidding,
That's
we're not forbidding the cutting of any tree.
Unless they're in the conservation.
Well, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
We got a committee for that.
Good point.
Then I put my hat on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's 8:20, so I want to bring us back to where we're supposed to be, which is talking about just sorting out the forum. So I think we've come to a consensus that we're gonna have some kind of presentation after we talk to Chris, and we all meet, some of us meet on the 17th. And then we're gonna go to a presentation with a presentation, chairs set up like town meeting, and an open mic for questions and conversations after. We will be very upfront about the idea that we are presenting sort of foundational concepts. We haven't written the bylaw, looking for direction, have a whole host of things that absolutely need deeper inspection, but that we're asking the community to participate in that with us to some degree. Are we all okay with this?
Good follow-up, so the last meeting, we accepted, community feedback via email. Do you want to,
Yeah.
account for that? And if so, would you like slides from the presentation to be on the website, and then folks can distribute those slides, and then they provide feedback via email?
Sure.
Is that,
I think we can probably put the slides on the website and link the recording of the meeting on the website so that they can easily view it and then, you know, write in afterwards if they choose to do that. And we can talk about the idea of the survey.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, were you-
Live survey.
Did you,
I was,
Poll.
Lee can
Yeah.
fill you in. I think it
Yeah.
was
It's actually
reasonably
really-
easy to
It
do
was easy.
and it was
Alex-
very splashy.
Alex, well, it was.
It kind of
Yeah.
depends on how many people we get in our audience. If there's 6 people, it's gonna suck just as much as the tables. If there's, more, then then it's fun. I mean, it's at least, it's like an activity more than a survey.
do you want to call this a, community meeting similar to Large House versus public listening session?
Yeah,
Please don't put listening sessions.
yeah, I mean, public community forum.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the thing about cost. I don't think we're there.
I missed the
Yeah.
message. I saw there was.
So Nick, you had a comment about detailing cost.
Oh, I wasn't gonna detail costs, but I think in terms of broad strokes, if
Sure.
we're trying to highlight major issues, I think
Like
highlighting
when we
that,
say mitigation, we're talking about.
yeah, there may
Yeah, we have to be
be the
clear about
hiring
it.
of, there may be the hiring of staff, for example, and that would be part of this proposal, is understanding the implication on town staff.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so we've talked about what we plan for the community forum. stormwater bylaw working group is disbanded.
No, we
No?
go through December 31st and for a party.
She thinks you burned a party, huh?
The stormwater bylaw was successfully passed. Yeah.
Water party gonna be like, it's gonna be a lot of water.
You want to join?
Champagne fountain.
So congratulations to the stormwater. working group, that's for sure. The large house review committee. Do you guys want to
Sure.
provide
Oh.
a brief
Yeah, very
update?
brief.
Brief.
So we are in the throes of gonna go to the planning board. We're gonna talk about what we wanna talk about in the community meeting, which is gonna be on the 18th. And so we are finalizing a presentation that's gonna be highly focused to get good feedback from the community on what are we trying, how we're trying to regulate, and also giving them 3 options on reduction options, which are kind of bringing in the high-low, dropping the high-low and focusing on the meat. And so it's basically a chance to get feedback on how much the town is feeling they want to regulate.
So after the meeting the 18th, we'll kind of finalize what we want to hand off to the planning board. Is then we're handing off to the planning board in December. Then we take it and go from there.
And there'll be a whole public process.
Yeah, and go through, we'll probably have 2 public meetings after probably 2 public meetings after that, certainly one of those, probably 2.
Great. Thanks, guys. The last thing on our agenda, is to have a discussion about our education and communication. And I know that, Erica did a fantastic, booth at the Harvest Fair, which was awesome. We did have a couple of other, things that at least we had talked about, and I don't recall if it was talked about here. One was the presentation, when actually we talked about this at the very beginning, like our first meeting. When Katie was still with us, about having the Charles River Watershed Association do their presentation. Originally, that was gonna be doing their presentation for us, but we think in discussion with chairs, we were thinking that it might actually be a much better idea to have this be a community
Yeah.
event where, because some of their newest research is done, involves Needham and the area. And so to have this be done sort of either entirely hybrid with anyone who wants to can join, or, do it in Powers Hall with a hybrid component. And really, this would be like the tree committee facilitating the Charles River Watershed Association presentation. We wouldn't be doing a presentation ourselves.
We'd be the
Thanks,
hosts.
Nick.
Do we have any idea how long it would be? The presentation.
We haven't gotten into specifics, but I don't think that that's a huge lift for us, except of course to find a date, which
This
will be a nightmare.
community meeting.
This is gonna be unrelated to our committee work.
Yeah.
This is just an educational event.
We do it in the spring,
Try to-
maybe, April,
I mean,
April,
this is,
what is
we're
it,
having a
Earth Month?
discussion about it. We
Earth
can-
Month.
Arbor Day, last
Yeah,
Friday,
yeah,
April,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's Arbor
Yeah.
month is April.
I like
We
that.
need Arbor Day.
We could ask the Charles River
Yeah.
to tailor what
Like,
we present
real-
somewhat, educating about the.
You haven't seen my Arbor Day.
Does that actually touch on stormwater too?
I'm sure it
I'm
does.
sure it
Yeah.
does. So yeah,
I'm
it'd
sure
be
it
good
does.
to just have that as a reminder of,
Yeah.
all of these controls are
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Stormwater is huge.
So everyone's like on board with this idea, so we can try to set it up and we'll figure out.
It would,
The
it
date
would,
that
it
works
would
for
be
everyone.
good to have it enough in advance of town meeting. Even though this isn't being brought to the town meeting. Large House is being brought to town meeting. A lot of people say, well,
Oh, yeah.
why is Large House Canberra trees?
Sure.
So
Why
Sure.
aren't we?
why aren't we Canberra
So,
trees? Yeah,
At
exactly.
some point in February or March. Okay, the other item that we had talked about, and after that, like, please bring your ideas, but one of the items that we had talked about was maybe having the library do a like a carousel, you know, they curate book selections based on a subject. So clearly we could do it for Arbor Day or whatever, but we could also just do it because it's something that we want people to learn about at our convenience. We were talking about having, you know, trees and plants and all the related subjects. Our resident landscape designer has a whole host of ideas, including like popular fiction and things. So if anyone wanted to contribute any ideas, I mean, obviously the librarians can help us with this, but this would be something that we would sort of, and we could also put on that carousel information about our work, Ed's work, Gabby's work, all of this stuff. So
Gabby's
that was
keeping a
another idea.
running, excuse me, Gabby's keeping a running list of book ideas for this. So she's got, I think, what about like 13 or 14 right now on that list? So if you have any ideas for books that to be included, especially Ed, you might know, or you know, I think it's great to have novels and other things that children's books, things like that. So she's got a list, and she can cross-check
share
your
that?
suggestions against
Yeah.
the list.
The Secret Life of Trees. You know,
Exactly.
that,
Yeah,
that's
that's
the most
already on the
important book
list.
that
That's the
ever
most
been
important
written.
book ever, absolutely.
Wait, is that the?
Already on the list.
Sure it is. Thank you, Erica.
Laura's
Is that
there.
the,
Yeah,
is that the
Good
picture?
Lord.
No,
There's
the book that basically identifies that trees can communicate to each other, and it just goes through how they have medicines that can
Oh,
heal
yeah.
each other. And
Absolutely.
it's the most amazing book.
Like,
Takes a while to read it because you're like, whoa, what is this guy saying?
That's amazing.
But it's
I have
true.
a few to it.
so, yeah, so
got some.
please contribute to that list. Mail Gabby, because,
Are garden tours popular in this town?
The Women's Club has a garden.
Women's Club does a garden tour every year.
What if we had a garden tour of people that have found ways to really, you know, do something
Like
on
sustainable
trees?
gardens?
Yeah,
Like,
well, oh, and to include,
Tree tour.
places where they let the leaves stay.
Yeah.
around.
Something alternative to
That's
grass.
a good idea.
You can go to my backyard, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean.
I have a sign in front of my house.
Be willing to bring the public to look.
Yeah, so like, sustainability features, landscape features. Yeah, I love that.
Natural landscape.
Are you volunteering to think about how such an event might be structured?
Might be.
Excellent, I love that idea even more.
The other thing that's great in the library is when they do the kids that are working with the florists, so the drawing, the paintings that are
Oh,
done
yeah.
with the flower arrangements.
Yeah, I wonder.
It's in the spring. I
Oh,
think.
art in
Art and bloom.
art, art and bloom. That's great. Yeah.
I love that.
That would be interesting if they would
That's just, you have the reading list or something.
fold in
or
a theme of
Tree, yeah.
trees or outward.
something.
Because a lot
Or
of those
just-
are very, you know, floral arrangement-y. So I wonder if
They are,
some
and
of
they're
them would be willing to
doing.
branch out.
Very good fun.
Getting corny.
Good one.
Couldn't wait. Any other ideas? I mean, I think, you know, the more we do, the more we raise the profile and.
I mean, I think last year we did like multiple Arbor Days despite Artie's criticism that we don't do it big enough, but. I don't mean this group to the schools, but we did one at the high school. Where we basically handed out trees. We talked about trees. We talked about the project with the environmental club. So I think a public participation Arbor Day event in town would be nice. To hand out our information, plant a tree, have tree saplings, have our setback planting form, talk trees.
And have that tied with the questions that we got at the,
Sure.
remember, Erica,
Sure.
we got people who were asking, well, I wanted to get a tree from, and you guys have trees, right? And then just talk about the process and just have that nice sort of general awareness. Cause I think people were just not quite
Could
sure.
figure out the
exactly how you
website,
go
the
through it
link,
or
the
whatever,
site,
just, I
click
think
the link.
that's a cool way to make, to tie it into all of
I agree.
our lots. Our lot discussion.
I'm I wanna interrupt this conversation, not interrupt. Augment this conversation with a nod to our sustainability manager, our arborist, town tree warden. Because they just secured a
Yeah,
humongous
we-
grant
Nice.
for do.
Take
I
that,
can't
John
do
Conley.
justice.
Take that, John Conley.
Bravo.
For the state cooling corridors grant
92,000.
program, so it'll be tree planting and watering, it's a 2-year grant. And we put together a map of our hottest neighborhoods, overlaid that with our safe routes to school sidewalks, and then Ed and I did drive-bys to figure out who had biggest berms in order to actually do berm plantings, and then put together a proposal to do 46 trees for planting.
Very good.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this,
Congratulations.
this, you're not gonna
Yes.
try to put stuff in the ground this fall, are you? No.
Well,
Spring.
Spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta bid it all out. and
Yeah.
There's
Early
a
enough in
few
the fall. it can be
requirements for any grant funds from the feds,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
this spring.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you.
It's a
I think
state
it's a
grant,
pass
state-
through,
state
yeah.
Is there any-
Yeah, it's not personal, huh?
Oh, sorry.
There's a lot of
We're,
requirements.
we're gonna take a little
Like,
here and
that's
a little
even more
there.
impressive.
Is there like a cool way we could, do a signage?
Something to publicize this awesomeness. Yeah.
That, but I was just thinking about in the town woods, we were talking about identifying trees or having, and putting signs on things and adding education about trees.
Yeah,
For
there's,
anybody who walks through the woods.
on the Commonwealth Mall, anytime they put a new tree in, they go, "Hi, I'm new here." And it's like- Yeah, I always stop and I read them and it says like, "I'm a black oak," and you can scan it with a QR code, so.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, that's super.
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
There's
That's
an
awesome.
actual
Volunteer
An
group, you know,
education
that's awesome.
component with the grant,
That's awesome.
and so we haven't
QR
had our
code.
kickoff
Yeah.
meeting, but we have talked about education in particular with folks who are in the surrounding neighborhoods where the trees will be planted,
Yeah.
about like climate resiliency, what are the benefits of trees, what are the trees we're planting, why are we planting this kind of tree in this kind of spot.
Well, and whichever I assume it's elementary schools, but that's. Whatever school the walking routes are going to, probably we could do something there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
I do love the idea of the signs and I know that we talked in our last select board meeting about a bunch of trees that have to come down because the Eversource work is Eversource,
Webster
right?
Street, yeah.
Webster Street.
Oh, no.
Well, we're losing 3 trees, I think, but
We're
we're
getting
gaining
12.
12.
Yeah.
But,
Oh,
but I think, one of the things that we talked about very briefly during that meeting was, if we can put up signs, like, I think anytime we start taking trees down, if you recall the ones that were taken down by the high school, even though there was plenty of information on that, people didn't know about it. So if we can maybe put a sign like at the site and then the High on New
Explaining
Year.
why we're taking.
Yeah, like
the
this
tree
is
down.
part of a project, they're gonna be replaced 12 times
Interesting.
over or whatever,
They
X
did
number over.
leaflet the abutters and all the, with the notice about
Yeah,
why they're
it's the,
doing it,
it's the
how they're
people who are
doing it.
walking by.
Understood.
They have like, mobile electronics, like somebody just had a little.
QR code,
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the Needham community is well versed in sorts of things, science, engineering and all of that. I'm wondering if it's a possibility that we, if we flip the different GIS layers, if we can determine, percentage of canopy, for example. And the reason I'm saying this, because it's impactful when you bring a message to the community and say, and by the way, this is our percentage of canopy in our area, and this is why it is so important that we protect it. Whereas it's, when you provide data, when you provide information like that, even though it's, it's not precise, but it's actually the GIS layers for impervious, pervious and land pretty good. So I'm just wondering if it's something that we can do, if we clip those and maybe kind of quantify that in terms of percentage per acre of, for example, there's this many acres in in
We
the
would
town.
probably do current state, but we don't have information for comparison. We wouldn't be able to say that.
Go back 25 years.
Lost
and
a
say-
certain amount.
No, I'm not saying that.
You
I'm
could
saying
pull up
today,
Google Earth
as
and
of
Possibly
today,
do
as of
current
today,
yeah.
this is the percentage based on the acreage of the entire town, the open spaces, whatever.
Yeah. there are
So
a few
just kind of
times.
nitpick which ones are more accurate,
Are you saying to do
Measures.
this for each neighborhood?
No.
No, just for the
just,
town.
just as a,
We talked about, making sure that we include in our presentation the why of saving trees is important, and that could be one of the things. So, I mean, presuming we get the information in time and all that, we can include sort of a holistic view of why trees are important, where we stand with trees in town generally.
I attended the last Charles River Watershed online seminar. It wasn't very well attended, but I actually had 3 questions. And I asked them whether they could repeat their GIS study that they did in 2008 and 2021. And they said that their GIS engineer has left them. So the answer was no. But we already have that data, and if we could build on that, then we definitely know whether it's accelerating, decelerating, stabilizing.
Well, I think we can do that
Yeah.
for the future, certainly, whether we can do that for the public.
2021
Community
vision.
forum, I don't know, but.
No,
we-
no.
but I think it's powerful. It's powerful when you
Yeah.
say this is where we are today, and I think we have satellite imagery, and it's not complicated to click raster data. It really isn't, but not for the 19th, but when we do educational material, I think it would be really powerful to include data.
Okay, so we did have one new idea, Fred. Like garden, eco-friendly yard tour. If you guys have any other ideas, please send them to Gabby. We'll add them to the running list and we'll see when we can schedule them. I mean, not for nothing, but like they could be variable in terms of lift, like scheduling Charles River or asking the library to put together a thing of books, not such a big lift. Your idea is a great one, but it's gonna be a slightly bigger lift, so let's try and sprout.
Do like some trees of Needham, do the blue tree and have a little story what the blue tree means. Do
Yeah,
the
that's a great opportunity.
Liberty
to
tree
do
at the
something
Heights
about trees.
fire station, which we planted as part of having a Liberty tree in every community and go through some of the significant trees and the story behind them.
That's a great idea, especially, I mean, the blue tree.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
And what about burn trees or public trees is something that's associated with, they're over the
Significance.
sidewalks, significance of what they do over the
Why they're
sidewalks. over the
regulated,
trees.
what the significance
Yes,
is.
I mean, what are they doing for the community? Is they do something.
How about for Arbor Day, if we collect information from, like, send you a picture of your favorite tree
I like
or
that.
something like that, so that we can engage the community to kind of send their best pictures.
The doors of Needham during the pandemic, that it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
When it gets a Dunkin' Donuts gift certificate or something like that, but like
Yeah,
make it a
something-
contest where.
Yeah, no, and I
Submit
think
your
it's-
But I
favorite
bet
tree.
there are a bunch of recognizable trees and,
Well, there's a book called Trees of Needham. I don't know if anyone even knows that, but
Really?
Well,
it's the first book I ever wrote. So, or actually, I just did the preface for the book. But so you've heard of Trees of Needham?
No, but
Oh, yeah. Okay, so nobody's heard of this book.
It's my sugar
Wow, I'm
baby.
getting old. It was used to be sold at what was the gift shop downtown that's no longer there? Now it's the
Taylor's.
Taylor's.
Taylor's. Yeah, it used to be a Taylor's, like right in the front, Trees of Needham, and I got a couple now.
Well, next-
You want me to go grab one?
next to
right
the
now?
yellow bags for the.
I'm wondering if the
20%.
sugar maple is there.
Well, the one that Ed talks about all the time.
Well,
No,
go get
the one
your
in-
copy. I'll go,
Okay.
they'll send it around. I get in my office right now. Nobody's seen this one. It's pretty good. Really?
All right, so, we're clearly not going back to the bylaw today, and I think that actually makes sense. That
Yeah.
we have a lot of issues that we need to resolve with Chris first. But is there anything that anyone else wanted to bring or discuss?
I wanted to ask Gabby, are you, I know that you're putting together the memo for, and that's coming, what, in the next week or so?
I hope I'm working on a revised draft right now.
This is the calendar of the book. For next week, but
Oh, it's a picture book.
yeah, well, it was all pictures of beautiful trees and we put the latitude, longitude of them to describe what they were and you might even recognize some of those trees.
When was this done?
2011, right, literally like my second week on the job, they're like, oh, you gotta write the preface for this
Are
book.
they
I'm like,
all still here?
No,
No. Some had, people were diseased or some had.
Some was just really old back then, so you know, some were on private property too.
Right, the blue tree was gone.
Yeah, the blue tree was 100.
Right.
Remind me of that one.
All right,
Not
so,
a fun memory to take 'em out.
That's my maple.
Okay, so.
Yes, yes, I thought you'd like
That's
that, I
the
know, we
maple.
talked about that maple, yeah, right around the corner from you. I know.
I've already asked.
Yeah.
I know.
hang on a sec,
Like-
we gotta make sure that people online can, I mean. There's can hear the conversation if we all start talking, it's gonna be too complicated. So does your question relate to
Well, it
this?
does.
Or
Well, no,
Or are we
it's
having a
more,
large house
it's a
conversation?
question that I asked before and I got some feedback and I'm gonna ask it again. We are, obviously going through setting up what we want to use as the measuring tools or control mechanisms for the large houses. And the setback issue was always something that we had basically not considered changing. And the reason being, when we did the reduction studies for the houses, there was a natural, reduction of the footprints and so on, but in general, we didn't think we were gonna change the setbacks because we felt there was some latitude that would provide to builders and homeowners to be able to move their houses, even if they're now a smaller footprint or smaller houses, smaller volumes around the site. So if we were to continue to push in on those setbacks, that may or may not provide, more restrictions that you might do. However, it does feel like if there's, and it's interesting when you look at all these other towns, the dimensions of setbacks, there are lots of towns that have small setbacks. And so, and Wellesley's different. Wellesley does have a 20-foot setback, so they have a bigger setback, unlike many other towns. So I'm just curious if this is something that we think would be, as this committee, something that this committee feels is important to at least put on the list of as a critical issue to be considered by and so we could say that we add a foot or a couple of feet to the setbacks and some solution. I don't know what that is.
Wait, you want this committee to change zoning setbacks?
I'm just curious if they think that the additional amount of area, we're not defining by zoning and all the other thing about the
You want
tree yard.
tree
What
yard
is
to
it?
be larger
Is the
than
tree yard,
setbacks.
is there benefit because we have small lots? To think about the need for providing more area.
And what was the feedback you got last time?
Yes, every foot counts.
I know Ed said that.
Well, that's the
What did-
feedback.
what was?
Oh, boy. You're in trouble.
So I'm just,
Like Gene with the garage.
I know.
since last time I promised, I'm just curious, show of hands, not, oh, it's gonna be held accountable.
I'm not
Nick
into,
has
Did I
had
answer the
strong
question?
feelings about that last.
I'm
Are you
not-
not into adding that?
I'm not into over
Thinking
making the tree yard larger than the setback.
I'm saying make setbacks bigger so the tree, I guess.
I'm not on the planning board. You can talk to your
Yeah,
friend.
yeah, trust me, if this committee starts running increased setback, is going to the plan.
I know, totally, I was just, but that's why we're having this
Won't be going there anyway.
communication with these committees, that there's a set of concerned citizens
Yeah.
about trees.
No, I think
And
it's,
does that have an impact on what we're thinking about for house
yeah,
control?
I think it's fair to raise the question. But I don't,
So
I'm not
I've
sure
raised
that
it,
yeah, you've raised it.
Well, the
think about it,
no, I mean, the fact is the foundation where it goes affects the tree, whether it's killing the tree or not killing the tree. And plenty of those trees will be in the setback. that is not gonna.
Well, I think we're basically.
We
saying
didn't
it.
talk about the utilities, but that is
Mm,
also. a
Yeah,
consideration.
yeah, that was,
I just, we may not have time.
Well,
Today,
yeah,
we
I think
talked about the
utilities too,
frontage.
we're gonna find that that's a
Right.
different, that's a different set of rules. The Utilities usually have, right?
Yeah.
To pass through space, like, you know. They can pass through town space and they
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah,
likely pass
no, I
through
understand that, what I'm
town
thinking
sidewalks.
is,
Mm.
what I'm thinking is
Somewhere
more on. What are the remedial? Requirements, for example, if,
Yeah, well, so this is something though that we have to, I mean, I hear you and I think it's a legitimate issue, but I don't know that we can speak to it. But Chris, so
no, I'm not,
it's on the list.
yeah.
So, anything else before we?
Are you looking for a motion to adjourn?
I think you just gave it, Fred, I second that.
I would take a motion to adjourn.
It's so moved.
Okay, and Artie seconds, and so we're gonna do a roll call vote. So we'll start with you, Erica.
What,
Thank you. Yep, to adjourn.
I vote to adjourn.
Excellent. Artie?
Yay.
Oscar?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes, so we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
You too, Kurt.